Peace and welcome. In today's episode, we have our favorite desert themes in gaming. If there is anything that we like as much as getting down in our favorite games, it's the music in said games. Our guidelines for this episode will be as follows. Number 1, desert stages, desert towns, desert dungeons, desert temples, and pretty much anything of the sort all count. Number 2, original tunes only. No renditions, no covers. Number 3, one per franchise. So with that out of the way, let's dive right in. Number 10, Breath of Fire, Desert Town by LYLA. Our first up is by a group of several composers known as LYLA or Alpha LYLA. This soundtrack was composed by a few of their members, including none other than YOKO Shimomura. First released in 1993, Breath of Fire was a Super Nintendo exclusive until the Game Boy Advance got a release about 8 years later. This track has a slight Egyptian feel, which is common among desert themes. It's a nice track, a little bit calming at times, and a fitting theme for a desert town. Number 9, Super Mario 3, Desert Hill World Map by KOJI KONDO. So after going through a ton of Mario desert themes, we ended up with Desert Hill. It seemed none were more memorable than this one here. Coming in a close second was Calamari Desert from Mario Kart 64, but the Desert Hill World Map barely edged it out. Most of the other desert themes in the franchise seem pretty average. Maybe it's just me, but I prefer the water themes when it comes to Mario. Number 8, Secret of Mana, Desert Theme by HIROKI KIKUTA. Coming from the SNES and by Square, one way to describe this soundtrack would be to say Chrono Trigger meets Final Fantasy VI. It may not be as good as either of those, but it's good in its own right. It has the typical SNES sound, so it may be familiar in some aspects. This track doesn't scream desert, but it has a nice laid-back feel that I can dig. This could almost pass for a water stage theme in my opinion. It has a fluidity that would fit pretty well. Lucky number 7, Zelda, Ocarina of Time, Gerudo Valley by KOJI KONDO. We try to mix it up, but when it's good, we can't ignore it. Ocarina of Time may be my favorite Zelda soundtrack. There are plenty of really good themes. I like the feel of this one, and I really like the riff of the acoustic guitar. Then a horn joins in, and the overall sound almost gives me an old western type of feel. I could picture this playing as a cowboy rides off into the sunset. This is a theme I really enjoy, and it just happens to come from a great game. Number 6. Castlevania Harmony of Despair. Hail from the Past by Yasuhiro Ichihashi and Tomoaki Hirono. So the first thing that I must mention is the track is originally composed by Michiru Yamane, and it originates from Castlevania Portrait of Ruin. A lot of the tracks in Harmony of Despair are remade tracks from older Konami games. A few of them aren't even from Castlevania, but King's Valley 2 on the MSX2. The reason we went with the Harmony of Despair version is the lack of compression on the track. Portrait of Ruin is made to be portable, as it is on the Nintendo DS, so it has been compressed. This is a very unique track. This percussion almost comes off a bit tribal, but then a flute and sitar kick in and you know it's a desert theme for sure. I like the upbeat tempo of the theme. It really jams and has a good rhythm for an action-adventure game like Castlevania. If you like the Castlevania franchise and have not given Harmony of Despair a chance, then I really think you should. The game itself is one of the best Castlevanias there is. Number 5. Bloodstained, Hidden Desert by Michiru Yamane. The newest game on our list, but the soundtrack in my opinion is an instant classic. This track has a slow build-up, giving off an eerie feeling, then the track kicks off and it's great for an action-packed slasher. The beginning has a bit of an Egyptian feel, and the main portion of the theme does a little bit as well. Small sections of it remind me of Castlevania with the strings and the overall feel of it. But when all is said and done, this soundtrack is amazing. Number 4. GoldenEye 007, Osaghira Temple by Graham Norgate and Grant Kirkhope. Good old 007. I have been a Bond fan for a long time, and I have always wanted a good game starring James Bond. One day, GoldenEye was released, and the game is outstanding. What happens when you take a great game and combine it with great music? You get a classic. The composers blended the feel of 007 with the feel of an Egyptian temple seamlessly. There may not be any perfect soundtrack in gaming, but this theme comes close to being perfect for what it's trying to be. Number 3. Donkey Kong 64, Angry Aztec by Grant Kirkhope. A track that takes no shame and knows exactly what it wants to be. There is no doubt that this is a desert theme. It's done well, and it's one of my favorite desert themes there is. I didn't think it would be this high on the list, but it kept climbing and never looked back. I really like how this theme comes together, then builds and mixes it up. I think this soundtrack is often overlooked when it comes to the Donkey Kong series because you have some very fierce competition when it comes to music. Number 2. Sonic & Knuckles, Sandopolis, Act 2 by Jun SENOUE. So when it comes to desert themes in Sonic, I think Sandopolis is the clear-cut winner. But the question becomes, is it Act 1 or is it Act 2? Personally, we went with Act 2, but I can see why some people would choose Act 1. The thing about the Genesis, the music can sound terrible if the composer doesn't take into account what the final product will sound like. Maybe they can get lucky and it will sound acceptable, but it's better to not rely on chance. As always, we have a few honorable mentions. Number 1. Final Fantasy Tactics, Desert Land by Hitoshi Sakimoto and Masaharu Iwata. A lot of people may not agree with this on this one, but this is one of our all-time favorite games. This soundtrack is full of memories. I can listen to it 1,000 times and never be bored. It's what I would call timeless. From the first time I heard it until right now, my admiration for this soundtrack has done nothing but grow. And this isn't your typical desert theme. You have all type of instruments coming together in a perfect blend. So there will always be some tracks that we forget about, or ones that you may think got snubbed, but it's all just for fun, and if you think we did miss any of your favorites, feel free to tell us in the comments. Our next episode will be the top 10 ice or snow themes in video games. So hit us with the best that you can think of, and you may just see it in the next episode. Until then, I am ICC, thanks for watching, peace.